What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and in today's video, I want to do a breakdown on champions versus champions matchups in the UFC and throughout UFC history. Champ versus champ fights have been very prominent, very common, where we'd see a champion of a said weight class cross over into another weight class, whether it be moving up or even moving down, but in most cases going up. And, in a lot of these matchups, some champions have been successful in becoming double champ, like McGregor, Nunes, Cejudo, DC. But then there's also been some who have not succeeded, like Israel Adesanya, BJ Penn, Alexandre Volkanovski, Max Holloway, but that was for interim. Still counts, I think. But in this video, I want to discuss which champions I think are most likely to be successful in their attempts to become double champ if they were to try, and then which champs would most likely fall short. So the first matchup I'm going to start with is the most currently talked about hypothetical champion versus champion matchup, the one that's on the most high demand at the moment, and that is Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko versus Zhang Magnum Weili. This is a fight that fans have been talking about and dreaming of for 6 years, since 2019. And now that they've both cleaned out their divisions, and a lot of time has passed, this fight is even more possible now than it could have been maybe a few years ago. And it's closer than ever to happening. And both Valentina and Weili, they're two timeless, generational, all-time greats. They've been dominant for so long, both two-time champions, and both don't seem to be doing any kind of slowing down anytime soon. And they're actually getting better with age, with time, which is pretty scary for the contenders below them because, Valentina has made progression. She stepped up her game, even in losing the belt to Alexa Grasso. That was sort of like an awakening for her, and she locked in, and she was able to get the belt back. Weili Zhang, after losing the belt to Rose, became even more of a beast than she was prior. Now let's talk about, both their strengths and what makes both of them good, and then how they match up against each other. In Weili's case, she's known to be a technical brawler who's very well-rounded. She's very good on the feet. She's very powerful, and she's very tough, but she can wrestle very well. And we saw this in her last fight. Not only was she able to defend takedowns of Tatiana Suarez, but she was also able to get her own takedowns on Tatiana Suarez. She's out-wrestled almost every opponent that she's been in there with ever since getting head kicked by Rose. That's became one of the biggest weapons of her game. Now, in Valentina Shevchenko's case, she's very similar to Zhang Weili, but also very different. Similar in the sense that she's very well-rounded. She can strike, she can wrestle well, she can grapple well. But the difference is between the two is that Valentina Shevchenko is more technical than Zhang Weili. I believe her striking defense is better than Zhang Weili, and overall, I think she is the better striker. And I do think that if Weili is going to win this fight, she would absolutely need to be able to successfully impose her wrestling game on Valentina Shevchenko, because in just striking, unless Zhang Weili catches her, which is very unlikely because Valentina is good at seeing shots coming, good at slipping and evading and punishing you when you miss. Unless she catches her, I think Valentina pieces her up. And we can't forget, Yan Xiaonan was schooling Weili Zhang on the feet. Weili needed to wrestle to win that fight. She struggled in that matchup. Against Joanna Jędrzejczyk in that first fight, even though, that was Weili before she really leveled up into the great that she became now, Joanna was piecing her up in moments. She was tagging her up. But the difference between Jędrzejczyk and Shevchenko is Valentina does not get drawn. She doesn't get lured into brawls or long exchanges like that. And I think that's Weili's only chance, other than wrestling, is she's got to be able to bait Valentina in a brawl. Because in a brawl, in those long pocket exchanges, in those close range exchanges, that's where Zhang Weili will shine against anyone she faces. But Valentina is very smart, very good at maintaining that distance. And if Weili can't close the distance, can't create brawls, and can't get her takedowns, then I don't think she wins. And plus, Valentina Shevchenko is a weight class bigger. I know Weili moving up is probably going to be even more dangerous given that she doesn't have to cut that much weight. Weili herself is big too, but Valentina is a former 135er. So I think her size is going to help her in this fight. Valentina also has good takedown defense. Overall, Val just has the bigger advantage in this matchup stylistically, better IQ, and I've always been picking Valentina Shevchenko in this hypothetical Valentina versus Weili match for a long time. But, as the years went on, as time has went by, I do think that it's a more competitive fight than I initially thought. I do think that Weili has a better chance than what I've given her credit for. But ultimately, I do think that Valentina Shevchenko would she would crush Weili's double champ hopes. Now, what if Valentina Shevchenko were to move up and fight for a second belt? Because here's the thing. Valentina moving up, fighting for the bantamweight title again, is another topic that fans have discussed. When Amanda Nunes was champion, fans wanted that trilogy. When Juliana was champ the first time, people thought Pena, who she beat before, was a layup to get that second belt, and now Pena's the champ again. So let's talk about it. Juliana Pena versus Valentina Shevchenko 2, the Venezuelan vixen and the Bullet running it back. Who would win today? Now, this is interesting because they had their fight way back then. I think it was in Chicago, January 2017. And in that fight, Juliana Pena actually was doing very well. Juliana Pena actually had a lot of success in that fight. She didn't give Valentina Shevchenko any space to work her clean technical striking. She closed that distance and was able to smother her, control her against the cage in the clinch, land knees to the body. And I do think that Juliana was winning that fight for as long as it lasted in those short 2 rounds. But the mistake that Pena made in that fight is she got overconfident. She underestimated Valentina's ground game and thought she had her once she took her down. And it looked like Juliana was going to win the fight. It looked like she was on her way to winning the fight. Valentina couldn't create space. Then she got taken down. She probably wasn't going to get back to her feet. But Valentina Shevchenko hit her with a surprise, an armbar. But would that happen today if they fought again? Now, Juliana Pena has improved as time has went on, and so has Shevchenko. They've both gotten a lot better. The improvements that Pena has made is in her striking. And now a lot of you might disagree, but she has improved her stand-up. Her boxing is a lot better. Even though she's still a little bit sloppy on the feet, she now is able to use more calculated chaos on the feet. She's becoming a much better counterpuncher in the stand-up. She showed that against Raquel Pennington and in moments against Amanda Nunes. Her jab is effective. But with that being said, I don't think her improvements on the feet are going to matter against Valentina. Because Raquel, even though she's got good boxing, she's slow and she's hittable. She'll walk into range to get tagged. Amanda Nunes doesn't have the greatest defense. She's a better striker than Pena, but you can tag Amanda Nunes. Now, Nunes at the end of it will get the better of those brawls and punish you for it. But Juliana was able to have moments where she was able to land that jab, where she was able to land that cross, where she was able to land that lead hook on Nunes, where she was able to brawl with her and come out on top. But Valentina, like I said, doesn't get lured into brawls. Her striking defense is too good. Her striking overall is just too clean, too technical. She is a master on the feet. And one critique I'll have about Pena is she believes too much in her boxing. she's kind of falling into that same issue Ronda Rousey did late into her career, where she believes she is a really good striker, better than what she actually is. That's why she barely wrestled in the Raquel fight. She had a couple of takedowns that won her the fight, won her the second and the third round, with the first being the swing round, but then she stopped wrestling in the fourth and fifth and almost lost because of it. Didn't attempt any takedowns in the Nunes rematch, and actually was the victim of takedowns herself. So if she approaches this Valentina rematch like she's been approaching her fights lately, then I do think she'll get schooled. But I do think Juliana knows better. I think she has so much respect for Valentina's striking that I do think she would implement a very similar game plan. And Valentina Shevchenko, she does get backed up quite easily because she likes to fight on the back foot to weaponize her counters, but Manon Fiorot showed not only can Valentina be backed up, she can be held against the cage. And Juliana Pena is a better clinch fighter than Manon. She is a better wrestler than Manon Fiorot. She has the size and strength advantage over the Bullet, and Valentina does struggle when her opponents have a physicality advantage. Taila Santos was physically stronger, and because of that, it helps her impose her grappling. And I think Juliana, with the wisdom that she's gained from that first fight, I don't think she would make that same mistake of underestimating Valentina's ground game and getting overzealous with her ground and pound. I think now she'd be a lot smarter. But who would win? That's the thing, because Juliana could fight smarter. She could grapple without underestimating the jiu-jitsu of Val. But does that mean she's going to win? Valentina Shevchenko is a hard fighter to bet against. I've done it a couple of times. I only succeeded once, or actually no, twice, because I picked Amanda in the second fight, and I picked Grasso in the first fight. But when I tried with Grasso in the other two fights, I failed. When I tried with Taila Santos, I was dead wrong. And Juliana, she loses to almost every champion that she faces, except for Raquel, but she's not an all-time great. She beat Nunes, but then in exchange, lost the rematch. I do think either way it's a close fight. I don't think Valentina finishes Pena again. I don't think she has enough power on the feet to hurt Pena. And I don't really see Pena finishing the Bullet. I don't see her submitting her. I don't see her winning by ground and pound TKO. They both had very good cardio. Honestly, it's a really, really close fight. Gun to my head, if I had to make a pick, you know what, bias aside, I'm just going to say Shevchenko wins again. And I used to favor Juliana in a hypothetical rematch. I want to think she would win. I really do. But Valentina Shevchenko is just too good. She's too good. And she'd probably find a way again. She'd be able to defend most of Pena's takedowns. Now, yes, she would get controlled against the fence. But I do think despite Pena being able to get a lot of control time, Valentina would probably be landing the more damaging strikes. She'd probably hurt Juliana in a few moments on the feet. Like she did with Manon Fiorot, she'd probably bust up that nose. She'd probably land a few good body kicks. She might land more on the striking numbers. Juliana might have moments in the fight where it looks like she's coming very close to winning, but Valentina would just edge it. Edge it by just landing the more effective strikes, doing a bit more damage, and Juliana's control time probably just not being favored, like Taila and also like Manon Fiorot. So Valentina Shevchenko would probably be double champion if she fought Juliana Pena, and I would walk away disappointed again as a Pena fan. Now, if Kayla gets the belt, then I don't think that Valentina will become double champ. If Nunes, out of retirement, gets the belt back, I think Nunes beats Valentina again, but Juliana Pena is one of the more beatable champs right now in the UFC, and would most likely lose again to the Bullet. But she would last longer, and she would put up a very good fight. But Valentina, she's just too good, man. Now, into the men's weight classes, Merab Dvalishvili versus Alexandre the Cannibal Pantoia. This is another champ versus champ matchup that a lot of fans are fiending for. The flyweight champ Pantoia, been champion for 2 years, 3 defenses. Merab Dvalishvili, 1 defense. He's been champion for I think 8 months. I mean, they call Merab the machine for a reason, because he truly is a machine. Amazing cardio, grueling pace, high volume in his striking, even though his technique isn't the prettiest, and he's very relentless with his takedown attempts, and he is a very, very solid wrestler. Now, what makes Pantoia dangerous is he is so good everywhere. He's a very good striker. He's not the most technical, but he's very effective with what he does on the feet with his brawling style. He's able to make his brawling work. He's very explosive. He's very durable. He can walk through your punches, and he can hit you, and he can hurt you more than you can hurt him. And he's got the threat of being able to knock you out in the stand-up or take you down and submit you. And Pantoia has one of the best back takes in UFC history. And his wrestling offense is very effective. And his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very high level. But if he were to move up and fight Merab Dvalishvili, would he be able to go out there, do to Merab what he does to everyone else? Or would Merab make Pantoia another Merab victim? Honestly, for as good as Pantoia is, what he does so well in the flyweight division, I don't think would be as effective at bantamweight, because these guys are a lot bigger. Pantoia sort of has that luxury at flyweight of having that physical presence, having that power advantage over almost everyone at flyweight, because at flyweight there's not many hard hitters. Pantoia is one of the very few, and then of course Kai Kara-France. Figgy, when he was there, was one of the hardest hitters there as well. He's stronger than most of the flyweights he goes up against, but in the bantamweight division, it's a different ball game. I don't think he would have a physical advantage over Merab. Merab is bigger. His wrestling isn't better. I don't think Merab would be worried about the takedowns of Pantoia. I don't see Pantoia taking Merab down. Merab defended a majority of Umar Nurmagomedov's takedowns. And if Merab can stuff takedowns of Umar Nurmagomedov, then he should have no problem defending takedowns of Alexandre Pantoia. And plus, Merab trains with Aljamain, the Funk Master Sterling, who's literally known to be like the human backpack. That's his thing. Being a really strong wrestler with a good jiu-jitsu base, with good back takes. Merab goes to war in the gym with Aljo every day, so he'll already know what he's up against. I just think for Pantoia, the only way I see him winning this fight is if he can frequently defend Merab's takedowns on a consistent basis, and force a striking match on Merab Dvalishvili. But then even then, in terms of the striking, Merab has been in there with more dangerous strikers than Pantoia, like Peter Yan, Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, Sean O'Malley. So I don't really think there's anything that Pantoia could do that Merab has not seen before, whether it's striking, whether it's grappling, and plus, Pantoia does slow down in fights. Merab never slows down. So I think the size, the cardio, the pace, the wrestling would all be too much, and ultimately I do think that Merab Dvalishvili, if these two did fight, he would be able to defend his bantamweight title, and Pantoia would not be able to get that second belt. Now, next up, this one's kind of interesting because this fight has already been played out twice. Alexandre, the Great Vulcanowski, and Islam Makhachev. This fight has already kind of ran its course. The ship has sailed. Islam Makhachev beat him twice. The first time by a close decision. The second time, first round head kick KO for Islam, but of course we know that the second fight was on short notice. Vulcanowski was coming off the couch and injured, out of shape. And I mean, you could argue that based off the first fight, a healthy, prepared, full camp Volk is always going to be a hard matchup for Islam Makhachev, but it's very hard to beat someone you're 0-2 against. And Islam Makhachev, I just think, has Alexander Volkanovski's number. And if they fight a third time, Islam is going to go into a trilogy with full confidence, knowing that he's already beat Volk twice. He already knows what he needs to do to beat Vulcanowski. And he just has more ways to win this fight. There's more for Volk to worry about against Islam than for Islam to worry about against Volk. Vulcanowski has to worry about the takedown threat. Even though he's shown he can defend takedowns, even though he's got Craig Jones in his corner, that takedown threat, it's still a problem. Islam can still take him down. Plus, Islam's competitive with him on the feet, despite Volk on paper being a better striker. Islam already showed he can hurt him with his hands, with his shins. I just think Islam has the blueprint. And other than Topuria, he's the only other guy who I see as Volkanovski's kryptonite. He also has the size, the strength advantage. Stylistically, it's a nightmare for Volkanovski. And plus, Volkanovski is not getting any younger. Even though he won the belt back, I don't think he's fully in his prime anymore. And if they do a third fight, I don't think we're going to see that same version of Vulcanowski we saw at UFC 284. So I think Makhachev would win 3-0. However, if we put Islam Makhachev up against another Australian with Craig Jones in his corner, the new welterweight champion, Jack Della Maddalena. Now, this is the fight that's going to happen. Makhachev, as soon as Oliveira and Ilya enter the cage, Makhachev will be stripped of his title, and his next opponent is the welterweight champ, JDM. Now, this is a tricky fight to call because I never bet against Islam Makhachev. He is just that good. He's pound for pound number one for a reason, but welterweight is new territory for Islam. JDM is bigger than anyone Makhachev has ever fought before. His takedown defense is improving as shown against Belal Muhammad. He's got momentum, confidence. He's got the boxing advantage over Makhachev, one of the best boxers at the welterweight division, one of the heaviest hitters at 170. Now, Islam has fought heavy hitters before. He's fought good boxers. He's fought Dustin Poirier, but Jack Della Maddalena is no Dustin Poirier. But if Islam Makhachev is able to properly bulk up to the welterweight division, and he doesn't just go in this fight just not cutting weight, but actually puts on size, and then you combine the skill that Islam already has with his size, Islam might have the advantage in this matchup against Jack Della Maddalena. And it's possible that Islam, without cutting weight, he might be healthier, he might be more dangerous, he might hit harder, he might be more durable, his cardio might be better. And if that's the case, it won't be an easy fight because JDM, he trains with Craig Jones, and if you don't know, training with Craig Jones is the best base for having good defensive jiu-jitsu, right? Good defensive grappling. So it'll be tough to submit Jack Della Maddalena. Taking him down won't be easy, but Makhachev has better striking than Belal Muhammad. He hits harder than Belal Muhammad. He wrestles better than Belal. His fight IQ is better than Belal. He's better at making mid-fight adjustments than Belal. He doesn't just rely on toughness and cardio. So if Islam is able to properly transfer physically from 155 to 170, then I do think that Makhachev might be able to win. Not for certain. I'm going to say 60-45 in favor of Islam Makhachev. 60% that he defeats Jack Della Maddalena. 45% chance that he doesn't win. But I mean, I would not be shocked if Makhachev could become a double champ. Not counting out JDM though. JDM is a beast. He is a champion for a reason. But I'm going to lean Islam, but not super confident. Now, Dricus du Plessis versus Maggaman Ankalaev. DDP has been talking a lot about wanting to challenge for a second belt, wanting to go to 205, but he was only talking about going to 205 when Alex Pereira was the light heavyweight champion. That was a bigger fight. Because Alex Pereira has history with Israel Adesanya, who DDP had a fight with and had a rivalry with, right? And DDP has that resume, taking out Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya. So he wanted to, also challenge himself against Alex Pereira. But now that Alex isn't the champion, if he moves up and challenges for another belt, he's going to be fighting Maggaman Ankalaev. And honestly, I think Maggaman Ankalaev handles Dricus du Plessis. Now, if he were to fight Pereira, he'd have a chance because he's got the grappling advantage. He's got that awkward, quirky brawling style that seems to work even on the most technical strikers. And it could have maybe worked on Alex, but he needs to mix the martial arts. But against Maggaman Ankalaev, Magomed is so much better everywhere than DDP, other than maybe the jiu-jitsu game, like the submissions, because Ankh has no submissions. But striking-wise, Maggaman Ankalaev is way better than DDP. He's way more technical. He has some of the best striking defense in the light heavyweight division, kind of like Strickland has some of the best striking defense in the middleweight division. And DDP struggled with Strickland in that first fight. But the difference between Strickland and Ankalaev is Ankalaev has the size. He's very physical. He's very durable, and he's got more power than Sean Strickland. And not only does he have the striking, the precise counter striking, but he has the wrestling. I believe he could out-wrestle DDP if he wanted to. Magomed Ankalaev went toe-to-toe with one of the scariest strikers in UFC history, in Alex Pereira. Walked him down with no fear, shut down that left hook, and outboxed him for 5 rounds. I don't think he'd have much of a problem going up against DDP. I don't think DDP's Looney Tune striking style, goofy style would work on Ankalaev. I think DDP's style is best effective at middleweight, where he's got the physical presence, where he's stronger than most of his opponents at middleweight, where he hits harder than most of his opponents at middleweight. At 205, it's a different ball game, and Ankalaev would be the worst matchup for him. That would be the worst welcoming to 205 for Dricus du Plessis. So I don't see DDP grabbing that second belt against Magomed Ankalaev. But what if Magomed Ankalaev wanted to move up and challenge for the heavyweight title? Now this is interesting because we've never seen a 205er go up to heavyweight and fight for the heavyweight title. Well, actually, never mind. Daniel Cormier did it. Alex Pereira was talking about doing it until he lost. Now, Ankh has not expressed interest, but if he did, Tom Aspenol would likely be his next opponent. Tom Aspenol versus Magomed Ankalaev. Now, this matchup, skill-wise, on paper, is very competitive. Like, skill for skill, both guys are very good. Magomed Ankalaev is a very good striker. Very good defense. Tom Aspenol is also a very good striker. Both guys are well-rounded. They can strike. They can wrestle. They both have high fight IQ. They're both well-coached. But all skill aside, I think the difference maker in this matchup would be the physicality advantage for Tom Aspenol. Tom Aspenol is bigger. They're close in height. I think Tom is 6'5" and Ankalaev is 6'3". But Tom Aspenol, I don't know. I think he's faster. He hits harder. And I don't see Aspenol getting out-wrestled by Ankalaev. Ankalaev couldn't take down Alex Pereira, who's not known for great takedown defense. And I don't see Tom getting held against the cage by Magomed Ankalaev. He's much faster, much better footwork than Magomed Ankalaev. So I do think that Tom Aspenol, most likely, the heavyweight champion of the world, would defend his heavyweight crown from Magomed Ankalaev. If these two were like the same size, and this wasn't like a light heavyweight crossing over into heavyweight, it might be a different story. If Tom was a natural 205er, or if Ankalaev was a natural heavyweight, there's a good chance Maggaman Ankolia might win this fight, but I don't know if Ankalaev is built or equipped for the heavyweight division. So I think Ankalaev or Aspenol would spark Maggaman Ankolia, but it would be crazy if Maggaman was able to win the heavyweight title, especially off of Tom Aspenol, who I believe right now is the best heavyweight on planet Earth. But that is it for my champion versus champions breakdown. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Which champions do you think have the best shot at winning a second belt? Also, I was wrong about BJ Penn. I just remember he was a double champ, but what I was thinking is he failed at winning them simultaneously. That's what I was getting at, because he lost to GSP when he was the lightweight champ. But like and subscribe, share the video if you can, and yeah, peace out.